Hello, you guys. Hi. Today we are going deeper, okay? This is week 11, okay? Sorry, you guys, we missed last week, but you know what? Hey, we got to do what we got to do. We got to push through, okay? I'm Crystal Booth, and we're talking about rewiring identity, who you become after survival, okay? Who you become after survival. Yeah. First, your brain goes into survival mode after the trauma, and then after survival mode, guess what happens? You go into identity. Yeah, the the survival identity. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today on Trauma Talks Live. So, who you become after survival is really important. So, hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome back, you guys, and thank you guys for joining me. Okay. Again, I'm Crystal Booth. I'm a trauma recovery coach, a therapist, and the founder of Wings of the Future. And I'm so glad you guys are here with me. And today, this is again week 11. Our healing journey continues. We're never going to stop. We're going to keep it going because you know what? We got to get this done. So tonight, this topic is really, really powerful. Okay. And honestly, it's one of the most important parts of the trauma recovery process. It's the time when you really start to get the shift and you become who God created you to be. Right. You start to get your identity back, okay? The true identity. And you begin to let go of the identity that you just created to survive, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about, all right? Rewiring the identity and who you become after survival, excuse me. Because healing is not just about what you went through, although it is talking about what you went through, typically it's trauma of some sort, okay, some level of stress. But healing is also about who you are becoming now that you're no longer living only in the survival mode. Because after we start to shift the brain and come out of the survival mode that we lived in, unfortunately, for way too long, a lot of the times we still don't know how to let go of that survival identity that we created to keep ourselves safe. Okay, so I love that you guys are able to join me today. Okay, if you are here, just hit live in the comments. Okay, hit live in the comments, and we're gonna take it all the way. Okay, so many people spend years functioning, producing, surviving. They're helping everyone else and holding everything together for everyone else. In a lot of cases, they become the caretakers. They have the caretaker survival identity, that they're the caretaker. They start to see themselves as the survival, mechanism that they created to get through the trauma. They begin to see themselves as that person. Okay. But you know what? Underneath, they are still carrying that identity long after the trauma has ended. Long after the trauma has ended, they're still in that. Okay. All right. So guess what, you guys? We're gonna help you get through that. We're gonna help you begin to re, you know, step really truly into your true identity and step out of that survival identity once and for all. Okay. All right. So that identity was shaped by pain. It was shaped by rejection, abandonment, disappointment, betrayal. Yeah, neglect and emotional survival. It was shaped by all those negative things that you went through. Okay. And tonight we're going to talk about how to begin, guess what? Rewiring that identity. Okay. Because that's what we do here. Not just your thoughts, not just your habits, but the deeper internal belief system that says, I have to prove myself. I have to be strong all the time. I have to overgive to be loved, right? Okay. I have to stay guarded to be safe. Yeah. And I'm only valuable when I am needed. Okay. I'm only valuable when I'm needed. Okay. So tonight we're going to gently begin to challenge those survival, based beliefs. All right. So get your pen, get your paper, get you some water. I got my water and my coffee today. Okay. I'm not playing around. I got it both. All right. Get what you need to get. Get your pen, get your paper. And yeah, let's start writing it all down. Let's get this all put down. And if you don't, get everything. Just remember, this is going to be recorded. So you'll be able to see the full, the episode once we are done with the live. Okay. So thank you guys for joining me. If you already have not done so, just take this moment right now while we're getting started and we're getting ready to go into the lesson today to go ahead and get your pen and paper, your water, and go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. And also share it, because there's a lot of other people out there that may be going through the similar things that you're going through. And they've been stuck for so long and they don't know how to get out of the situations that they find themselves in. So we're going to help them gently challenge those survival based beliefs as well, okay? And making room for the new identity, the true identity that God made, who God made you to be, rooted in safety, rooted in worth, rooted in peace, rooted in self trust and purpose. All right, true purpose. Okay, so that's what we're talking about today. So let's get into this. All right, the first thing you need to understand is what is survival identity. I know I said that word so many times already, and you're probably thinking, like, what is that, Crystal? What is a survival identity? Okay, what is that? So let's start here. Okay, a survival identity is the version of you that had to form in order, guess what, to make it through pain, okay? Unsafe situations or emotionally overwhelming experiences. So survival identity is that. It's the version of you that had to form in order to get through things. You had to survive one way or the other, okay? And we're going to get into some of the examples of what a survival identity looks like. But that's what happens when we have a lot of pain. We have to do something to get through that pain. And in a lot of cases, if the pain is particularly if it's gone on for a long time, we will create a survival identity. So this is a version of you may have learned how to be quiet to avoid conflict. Okay, maybe there's a lot of conflict going on, which is trauma. Okay, so in order to get through that trauma, you learn to just stay quiet, and so now you need to speak up. It's hard to speak up because you really created an identity of being to avoid the conflict, being really quiet, or overwork to feel valuable. Okay, I know that one very well. Okay, or people please to keep connections. Okay, so that's another survival identity. All right, or shut down emotionally to avoid pain. Okay, shutting down emotionally to avoid pain and stay busy so that you will not have to feel. All right, staying busy so you don't have to. Guys, we're back. We're back. Okay. All right, we're back. Hey, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys' patience. Okay, so let's continue. All right. So, like I was saying, the different versions of survival identity that you can think about or that you can kind of zero in and see if this might be something that you might have created to survive some form of trauma. Okay, so maybe, like I said, the people pleaser, um, to keep connected, because maybe there was a lot of disconnection in your family, and you had to do this to survive, to be able to get your emotional needs met. Maybe there was a lot of neglect going on. That's a lot of the reasons why people will become people pleasers, or a lot of chaos and things like that. So also stay busy so you won't have to feel. So you know that definitely will lead to burnout because you're always on. You never have a time when you can just be off. Okay? So control everything around you because there was so much unpredictability. It was, I call it the suddenly problem, where there was always suddenly something happening, one thing after the next in the family system that caused you to feel like, hey, things are so unpredictable. You felt unsafe. So to take care of everyone, else because your needs were ignored. Okay, so this is what you had to do to survive this kind of thing. Now I want to say this really clearly, you guys. Your survival identity was not a weakness. So just in case you thought maybe, oh, this is, what's wrong with me? Why did I do that? Don't go there. No, this is something that your body had to do to get through this. And actually, it's very brilliant that you were able to survive something so traumatic this way. Basically, what this is all about is how to begin to identify the survival identities that you had that no longer serve you. So at the point in which you had them, they served you. They served a purpose, a survival purpose. Okay. You were in likely the amygdala, which is the survival brain. Okay. That's the fear center of the brain. And a lot of the times people will be in that brain. And this is the way in which they will determine or develop a way to get through what they're going through. Okay. So it was a very intelligent design. It was protection, you guys. And so, yeah, if you're going through rejection, maybe this is what you need to do just to get get through that season or period of time that you're going through that. So your nervous system is very intelligent and it knows what it needs to do to survive. So it was your nervous system doing the best that it could at the time. That was the resources that your nervous system had. Support, safety, it had at the time. But here's the truth, you guys. What you've survived may not help you thrive in this particular season of your life. So things have changed and we have to update as we go. Okay. So maybe we went through something difficult, but now we have to update our system to the nervous system that's going to actually help us thrive in this day and this time in our lives. Okay. So working sometimes overworking will obviously lead to burnout. So maybe overworking at the time it kept you from having to feel everything. Now overworking is causing you to burn out. That makes sense. So that's what we're here to fix. That's what we're here to update. Okay. So the people pleasing becomes resentment later. Okay. So these are things that will help you survive before, but now keep you from thriving in this time and season. And we love to do transformation here. We like to transform our lives and update our lives and make our lives relevant for today. Okay. So the emotional shutdown becomes a disconnection. Okay. The hyper independence becomes loneliness. So now you're struggling with loneliness where you don't have anyone around you because you're so hyper independent. Okay. Or you may be constantly proving yourself. That can be really exhausting to constantly have to prove yourself. I mean, it's one thing to prove yourself, but it's another thing to always have to do this. Okay. So a lot of this stuff is gearing you up towards burnout or disappointment of some sort. And we don't want that. So that's why we update. Okay. And the question becomes, who am I when I no longer have to survive this same way? Who am I? You don't really know who you are. So not only are you surviving, but you don't really know who you truly are. You don't know what your true identity is because you're having to create this false identity to survive. So trauma shapes identity. Let's go into that now. All right. So I hope that explains. I hope you understand. And like I said, we can continue. I can do another episode on this and we can talk a little bit more about identity. It may take a couple of sessions before we understand everything that we need to understand about this topic because a lot of people don't know about it and it's kind of new, fresh for people. Okay. So we want to make sure that you have the time to really process what I'm saying here. So trauma does not only affect the memory, again, it affects the identity, which is why we're here today to talk about identity. How about that? Okay, so it can shape how you see yourself, how you see others, okay? And it will skew how you see yourself. It will skew how you see others, how you see God, how you see safety, and how you see your future. See the problem? Okay. So if it's shaping incorrectly shaping things, then obviously you're going to respond differently. So when you experience ongoing stress, rejection, abandonment, emotional neglect, betrayal, or instability, your brain begins to form beliefs to help you understand what happened. Okay. But those beliefs are not always true. Those beliefs are not always true. They may sound like I am not enough, I am too much, my needs are a burden. You start to think those things, okay? You see the beliefs you're having? Those beliefs are keeping you stuck, pretty much. They're keeping you stuck. All right. So people always leave me. That's a belief. Okay. You see these negative belief systems, and you know what? The Bible even tells you, be it unto you according to your faith. So these belief systems, if you believe that, you're always a burden, it stands to reason why you're showing up in the relationship the way you are. Okay. People are always leaving me. I cannot trust anybody. That's a belief system. After so much trauma, this is what it evolves into. It evolves into these belief systems that ultimately we'll get to that, but ultimately they revolve into the false identities or the survival identities, however you want to word it. Okay. All right. So I have to earn love. Belief system. I have to earn love. So then the next step is, how do I do that? Let me create an identity that earns love. You see where I'm going with this? Okay. So I'm only safe when I'm in control. You've seen controlling people. Yeah, they don't feel safe unless they're in control. You try to take that control from them, you're not going to get it out of their hand. They are dead set on controlling every single thing because that is the only way they're going to feel safe with you. Okay. And that's no way to feel safe. Okay. Because it harms other people. Now, their safety is someone else's harm. You understand? So this is why healing identity matters so much, you guys. These beliefs become emotional templates. Okay. They become the lens through which you interpret relationships, opportunities, conflict, money, success, rest, leadership, and love. Love. That's how you begin to interpret it through these belief systems. Okay. I'm only safe if I'm in control. You're not gonna have a good relationship with that belief system. That belief system is gonna mess you up at some point, one day or another. Okay. So because your nervous system is still believes you are unsafe, you are unworthy, all of this is coming from the trauma. You know, um, powerless, okay, or abandoned, or you might keep recreating these old patterns over and over again in your life. You could be 100 years old, you can be 50 years old, and still creating patterns from childhood. Absolutely. And even when your life is trying to move forward, you're not able to move forward because the patterns got you stuck. Okay, and that's what we're trying to help you unstuck yourself from. So the neuroscience of identity rewiring. The neuroscience of identity rewiring. Okay. So let's talk about the brain for a moment, you guys. All right. Let's talk about the brain for a moment. Okay. We were really busy today, you guys. So deal with me a little bit. We were busy here at the practice. So, we're doing the best we can. But yeah, you guys. So I appreciate that. Okay. So let's talk about the brain for a moment. Okay. The brain is always learning through repetition. That's what the brain is learning. So even if it's something negative happening, your brain is still learning that negative thing. It can be also learning the positive thing. If the repetition is something positive that's gonna benefit you, you can learn that, but you can also learn something that is not a good pattern to learn. Okay. So let's talk about that. So let's talk about the brain and how what is learning. The brain is always learning this, like I said. And the more often you experience something negative, in this case, we're talking about negative things that you learn as opposed to positive things that you learn. Okay. The more your brain creates the pathways around it. So the more that this is happening, the more that you're going through rejection, the more you're creating these pathways in your brain. Okay. All right. And so you repeatedly experience the criticism, rejection, the chaos, or emotional invalidation. Your brain may have built strong pathways around fear. Okay. Fear of rejection, right? Fear of abandonment. Okay. These are self-protections. The fear is like a self-protection. Like I fear this. This is how I'm gonna protect myself through fear. This is how I'm gonna protect myself through control, causing self-doubt, all of it. Okay. And if you got all that self-doubt, you're not gonna be able to really achieve what you really want to achieve in life with all that self-doubt. We gotta fix it. Okay. So here is the good news though. I mean, I've been telling you all this bad news. I gotta give you some good news. Guess what? The brain has neuroplasticity. Isn't that amazing? Neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity means that the brain has the ability to guess what? Form new pathways. And that's why we're here with Wings of the Future. We're trying to help you create these new pathways, new responses, new beliefs, new emotional patterns. Okay. All right. But this does not always happen just because we say one affirmation at a time. No, that's not how it works. Okay. That's not how it works, okay? It doesn't work that way, okay? Rewiring identity requires something way more repeated experiences of safety, compassion, truth, and aligned action. So that's what it takes, okay? So you do not just think your way out of out into a new identity. I know you would like that to be the case, but you can't just think your way out of this. All right. You do not just think your way into that. Okay. You practice your way into it. So it's all just like you created the negative neural pathways, you got to create the new positive new neural pathways. And that's what we do here. Okay. Like even today, I was helping a client with that. Okay. I was helping them, the, talking to them and teaching them how we're going to create new neural pathways in their brain so that they'll be able to attune to their child. Okay. And they can do that once they create that new neural pathway. Now their repeated response is going to be different. Okay. All right. So that's the kind of work we do here. Okay. And that's why we do the work, because those old neural pathways keep patterns, keep landing them in the same dynamic, in the same scenario. And there, and of course it's negative. Okay. So you speak differently to yourself. That's what we teach you how to do here. Okay. You practice these new neural pathways. You begin to embody it. You begin to talk and speak to yourself in a way that is different than what you spoke to yourself before. Okay. You respond differently when triggers happen. It's not that triggers are not going to happen. Triggers are going to happen, but you just respond differently. You choose differently in the relationship. What kind of relationship am I going to choose? Because you got to choose the right relationship. If your brain is wired the same way, you're going to keep picking the same relationships because that's how your brain is wired. Okay. Even if you know that this relationship will end the same way, you're not going to be able to almost help yourself from doing that. So you allow rest without guilt. That's another neural pathway we can help you change. Set boundaries without apologizing. Isn't this cool? All right. All this is what you're going to get out of it. I am safe now. You're going to get to that point where you're going to start feeling, I'm safe. Okay. All right. You begin showing your nervous system you're safe. That's what you're doing when you create the new neural pathways. You begin showing yourself that you are allowed to have needs. Because guess what? If you've been through so much trauma, you might have begin to believe, I'm not allowed to have needs. And so that's why you don't get your needs met, because you don't feel you're allowed to even have needs. Does it make sense? Okay. So I'm allowed to love without performing. I don't have to perform all the time. Sometimes I can have a downtime. It's okay. I'm not always going to be perfect. Okay. You don't need that over perfectionism. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to keep up with that. And it's very stressful. Okay. All right. And I'm allowed to succeed without abandoning myself. So I can succeed, but I don't have to abandon myself. I'm allowed to become someone new. Okay. So are your who are you after survival? Let's talk about that. This is a question I want you to sit with, okay? This is a question I want you to sit with. Who am I becoming after survival? Not who did trauma tell me I was? But who am I becoming after survival? I always say that it's not what happens to you, but it's who you decide to become or who you become. Okay? So that's really the big issue here. That's really the identifying issue that's going to determine what identity you're going to end up falling into. Because you're like, how did I become this way? Well, it was a road there. You know what I mean? You need to know how you got there. You need to know that the trauma happened, that the beliefs started to, if it's a trauma, particularly if the trauma happened again and again, the beliefs started to form, okay? The beliefs led to the identity formation and this or the survival identity, okay? All right? The false identity, some people call it, okay? So now who did trauma tell me I was, but not, you know, again, not who did rejection make me believe I was, okay? So, not who did rejection make me believe I was, okay? Not who did disappointment train me to become. What did what did disappointment train you to become? What did rejection make you believe you were? Okay? That's what I'm really trying to say here, okay? All right? This is all of it. Not who did burnout force me to perform as. Burnout will force you to perform. What did burnout force you to perform as? Okay. to perform as. Okay. All right. So who am I becoming now that healing is available to me? So who are you now becoming? Because as we begin to heal, then you're going to be able to start to let go of the beliefs and the false identities or the survival identities, which is the work that we do here at Wings of the Future. So after survival, you may become someone who is more honest, more peaceful, more grounded, more emotionally available, okay? More connected to your body, more connected to God, more confident in your voice. Hey, okay? You can speak up and more careful with your energy, who you give your energy to, where you give your energy, more willing to receive love and more willing to rest. But this identity does not always feel comfortable at first. So when you start to come into your true identity, at first it feels weird. It doesn't feel quite right. But after a while, if you continue to do it, you start to see the benefits of being in your true identity and not the false identity. More willing to receive love, more willing to rest, more willing to stop proving and start living. Okay. But this identity does not always feel comfortable. Like I said, it doesn't feel comfortable. Peace can feel unfamiliar, even though we all say we want peace, but sometimes you never had peace. So when you start having peace, you don't even know what to do with yourself. You know what I mean? It feels unfamiliar. Okay. When chaos was normal, peace feels unfamiliar. Makes sense? Rest can feel unsafe when productivity was your protection. So sometimes productivity is your protection. Again, all of this stuff lands you right in the burnout in life. And then you're just like, I can't do anything anymore. Right. So healthy love can feel boring. That's why you keep going into the bad guys. Yeah, because healthy love felt boring. Let's be real here. Let's talk real talk. Why are you picking the bad girl, the bad guy? Yeah, because healthy love feels boring. When your nervous system is used to intensity, yeah, somebody who's not really, you know, drawing you out that way, you don't understand how to stop this. Okay, so boundaries can feel mean when your nervous system is used to intensity. Okay, yeah, boundaries feel like, oh, you're being mean. Yeah, you're not being nice to me. You're no, boundaries feel mean. I know it's hard to say that, but people don't want like, oh, or the boundaries feel like a threat to the person who has to do them. Like, oh no, if I do this boundary with them, that's like a threat, you know? Okay. People start to think that. Yeah. So part of healing is learning to tolerate the unfamiliar feeling of health. Learning to tolerate the unfamiliar feeling. Okay? We got to learn how to do that. This is really powerful, you guys. Part of healing is learning to tolerate the unfamiliar healing the unfamiliar feeling of health. Healthy people, okay? So let's talk about some signs you're still living from survival identity. Just so you can see if this fits you, if this is your situation, okay? If this is what you're going through, okay? Let's talk about some signs that survival identity may still be operating in your life. We want to know because we got to get rid of that survival identity. You might still be living from survival identity if you feel guilty when you rest. Write that down, okay? You struggle to say no. People pleaser. You feel responsible for everyone's emotions, especially your boyfriends. A lot of people feel responsible, like, oh, I gotta make them feel better. You're not responsible for other people's emotions. Okay, that's codependency. All right. You are constantly bracing for, guess what? For something bad to happen. You're on high alert. You're in hypervigilant mode. Absolutely. You're not relaxing. No, you're just feeling like, okay, what's next? What's next? Okay. So you do not trust peace when it shows up. So when you finally do get peace, you forfeit it. You forfeit the peace for the chaos. This is what trauma does to the brain. You see why I had to do this whole trauma channel? It's serious. You don't even feel good when peace shows up. And you're throwing it right back at the person. That's not what I want. I want what I'm used to. I hate it, but it's familiar. Okay? It's very familiar. You know what I'm saying? So we got to get this right. We got to get this right. Okay. All right, so you minimize your needs. Okay. You feel uncomfortable when someone gives you a compliment or celebrates you. You don't even know how to handle it. You're like, I can't handle compliments. I don't feel comfortable. This is not something you're used to. Your nervous system is not used to that compliment. It's not used to people saying anything good to you. So you think you start getting suspicious if they start saying anything, oh, something's up with them. Because this is not what you're used to. Maybe some people were emotionally neglecting you as a child or something. All right. You apologize for having boundaries. That's something that's normal. We all should have boundaries, but boundaries are not normal for you. Okay. You over explain decisions. Okay. You confuse being needed for being loved. You confuse being needed for being loved. Ain't the same thing. Somebody could need you, don't love you necessarily. Okay. So don't get the two confused. You stay in places where you're tolerated instead of valued. Okay, you should be celebrated, not tolerated. Okay, remember that. Okay, you're afraid that if you stop performing, people will leave. I got to keep this going. This is the hamster wheel. We got to get off that hamster wheel. Okay, so if any of that sounds familiar, you guys, I want you to take a breath. There is no shame here at Wings of the Future. No shame, okay? I wouldn't be talking about this if I didn't know about this personally, okay? So this is not about judging yourself. This is about noticing what your nervous system learned and gently teaching it something new. Gently teaching your nervous system something new, okay? So rewiring through self-empathy. Let's talk about that, okay? I did write the book, Deep Inner Soul Healing with Self-Empathy, all right? Okay. And then I also wrote this new one. You're Not Broken. Deep Inner Soul Healing Advanced Edition. It is on Amazon. You guys can get this book, okay? Book will begin to teach you about what I'm talking about when I say self-empathy and how self-empathy begins to help you heal your identity, heal those belief systems, and heal the root cause trauma. Okay? Because we got to heal all of it. All of it has to be healed. And maybe there's more than one wound. Maybe you have several wounds. Okay? Just in case you didn't get it. Okay? Um, yeah. Maybe you have more wounds than you can imagine. Okay? That you never thought of before. Like, wow, so many wounds. I didn't even realize I had that many wounds. Well, it stands to reason why things are going the way they are. Because you don't even know where the wounds are. It's like walking around with a bunch of open gapping sores on your leg and they wonder why you can't walk good. Okay, you're not going to be able to walk good because you got a bunch of open wounds. Well, we can also have open wounds inside of us, not just on the outside. Okay, so one of the most powerful tools for rewiring identity is self-empathy. It's a very powerful tool. Okay, self-empathy is the practice of turning towards yourself with compassion instead of criticism. So that's how you heal. You turn towards yourself with compassion instead of criticism. Okay, so many people try to heal by attacking themselves. Why am I like this? They say things like that. That's not gonna fix it. I'm just letting you know I tried it. Trust me. It doesn't work. I should be over this by now. They say stuff like that to themselves. What's wrong with me? Why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep going to these same kind of guys? And they think by telling themselves that they're gonna get themselves to stop doing it. And they notice that they're right back doing it again. Okay? All right? Self rejection does not produce transformation. And that's what we're all about here producing transformation. Self rejection does not produce transformation. Okay? Healing begins when you say, I see why I became this way. I see why I became this way. Okay? All right, let's say it again. I understand why I protected myself. This is a language change, okay? I understand why I feel so scared. Why I felt so scared. That was a scary situation. I understand why rest feels hard for me. Why it's so hard for me to trust. Trust rest. Okay? I understand why my body is still bracing for what's next. What's next? Suddenly trauma. Okay? This kind of compassion helps calm the nervous system. That's what we do here. We teach you how to do it. Okay? We teach you how to build this skill set for yourself. Okay? You can make it into a life strategy. Okay? This kind of compassion helps the nervous system do what? Creates enough internal safety for the brain and the body to begin learning something new. All right? It's going to create that safety so that the body and the brain can begin to learn something new. Because, hey, I'm going to tell you, oh, you need to stop doing this. You need to start doing this. But the body and the brain have to be given the space to heal. Okay. And that's what you do with self empathy. Okay. So instead of asking what's wrong with me, you begin asking what happened to me? What did I have to become to survive what I went through? Okay. And what does this part of me need to hear today? Okay. This is where identity rewiring begins. Okay. All right. This is where it begins. All right. So let's do a quick little grounding exercise before we end this whole thing today. Okay. Now I want to guide you through a brief self empathy practice. You could close your eyes and make yourself feel comfortable, or simply soften your gaze and yeah, exhale gently. Exhale gently. Okay. Place your hand over your heart or somewhere in your body that feels grounding, and now quietly say to yourself, I am here for you. I am ready to listen. Take all the time you need to heal every part of your heart, mind, and soul, neurobiological system, and everywhere where stress is trapped in the body. Okay? Now ask yourself, what identity did I have to create in order to survive? Okay? The responsible one, the quiet one, the successful one, the invisible one, the caretaker one, the fixer one, the achiever. And maybe it was all of them, maybe it was some of them. The one who never needed anything. Maybe that was what I had to be, the one that never needed anything. Okay. And then I wonder why I never get anything, because I had to show up as the one that never needed anyone to survive. Okay. All right. So now say, thank you for helping me survive. You protected me when I did not know another way, but I'm learning a new way now. I do not have to abandon myself to be loved. I do not have to overwork to be valuable. Okay. I do not have to stay guarded to be safe. Mm-mm. I am allowed to become someone new. Okay. Take another deep breath and let that settle. Okay. Rebuilding identity with truth, you guys. You can't rebuild your identity with a lie. Okay. So now let's talk about rebuilding identity with the truth. Your new identity has to be rooted in something deeper than survival. Okay. It has to be rooted in truth. So you got to be able to tell yourself the truth. Okay. Here are some truths I want you to begin practicing. I am not what happened to me. I am not who rejected me. I am not who abandoned me. I am not my trauma response. I am not my burnout. I am not my mistakes. I am not my old coping mechanisms. I am becoming healed. I am becoming whole. I am becoming safe within myself. I am becoming emotionally honest. I am becoming regulated. I am becoming available. I am becoming healthy for love. Healthy. You got to be healthy for love. And I'm becoming aligned with the life God designed for me. Okay. This is identity work. This is rewiring, and this is healing. So just so you know, some practical steps here that you guys can use. A few practical steps that you can begin using this week. Name the old identity. Okay. Name the identity. Ask yourself, what version of me has been running my life? What version? What childhood version? We do inner child healing work here too. So get on in when you can. Okay. Yeah, because maybe your childhood identity is running a show here. Okay. All right. Is it the overachiever, the fixer, the people pleaser, the emotionally unavailable one? Is it the hyper independent one? Is it the one who does not ask for help? You cannot heal what you keep pretending is there. Gotta get real. I always talk about this, okay? It's authenticity and vulnerability. When you shift into authenticity and vulnerability, you're gonna be able to do this work, okay? You're gonna be able to heal. You're gonna be able to do deep inner soul healing with self-empathy when you shift into that, okay? So honor why that identity was formed. Don't shame yourself for it. Honor it. All right, don't shame a version of you, because that's what you had to do at the time. That version helped you survive. So don't be hard on yourself. Okay, understand why you became that way. That compassion matters, you guys. Choose a new identity intentionally. Okay, so that's the authenticity. This isn't who I want to be. I don't want to be the people pleaser. You can be honest with yourself. That's not the life I really want to live. And tell yourself what the truth is. Okay, all right. Who am I becoming now? Maybe you answer, I'm becoming peaceful. I'm becoming honest. Big one, okay? I'm becoming rested. I'm becoming confident. I'm becoming emotionally safe. I'm becoming someone who trusts myself. Yes. All right. You can do that. Okay. All right. Identity changes through repeated evidence. Remember, we're rewiring. Just like the brain was wired the negative way, it has to be rewired the positive way. Okay? All right. So, what is one small action I can take today that matches the person I'm becoming? If you becoming rested, take a real break. I'm becoming honest. T- Tell the truth kindly. Okay, I'm becoming boundary, not say no without over explaining. I'm becoming boundary. Say no. Okay, I'm becoming self trusting. Take one decision without asking five people to validate it, okay? Small actions repeated over time become new identity evidence. Speak to yourself, okay? From the new identity. Your inner language matters. Your inner language matters. Instead of saying, I always mess things up, say, I'm learning a new way. Instead of saying, I'm too much, say, my needs are valid, okay? All right? Instead of saying, I cannot trust myself, say, I'm building trust with myself. One choice at a time. I'm going to do better with my choices. Your nervous system is listening to you. Remember, it's listening. All right. And just for the faith based part of this, you guys, because you know we're a faith based organization. Okay. For those who connect with faith, I want to say this: survival may have shaped you, but does not have to define you. Does not have to define you. Okay. All right. God did not create you just to survive the pain. Mm-mm. I know you survived it, but that's not the only thing he made you for. You're created to connect, reconnect, purpose, okay? Purpose, okay? You be able to connect. This is a version of you beyond proving, all right? Or there's a version of you beyond emotional survival. And sometimes healing, guess what? Is not becoming someone totally different. Sometimes healing is about returning to the person you were before the pain. Okay, the pain taught you to hide. Okay, all right, all right, you guys. I want you to do some journaling this week. Okay, before we close, I want to leave you with a few journaling prompts this week. Okay, write these down. What identity did I create to survive? What identity did I create to survive? Okay, what beliefs about myself came from pain, not truth? Okay, and what part of me am I ready to release with compassion? Don't forget that. And self empathy. And who am I becoming in this season of healing? What is one small action I can take this week that matches my healed identity? Okay. Let's one that matches your healed identity. It might be something that you could do, okay, to kind of encourage yourself. What does my nervous system need to in order to feel safe? Becoming someone new. What do I need to give my nervous system? Okay. Take your time with this. Do not rush this work. Okay, you guys. Identity healing is really deep work. Okay. And if you need help, you are not broken. Remember, the book. You're not broken. You're not broken. All right. Remember that. You are not too far gone. No, you're in the process of becoming. You're in the process of becoming. So honor that survival version of you deserves to be honored, okay? Because it helped you survive. But the healed version of you deserves permission to rise too. Okay. So you don't have to down yourself for what you had to do to get through it. You do not have to keep living from the old pain anymore. You can tell yourself, I released the inner vow to hold on to this pain. I tell people that all the time. You do not have to keep performing for love. You do not have to keep shrinking to stay connected. I know about that one. You do not have to keep proving your worth, working to prove your worth. Okay, you're allowed to become someone who is peaceful, powerful, regulated, loved, rested, and whole in the name of Jesus. And remember, this is not what happened to you. It's not what happened to you. It's who you decide to become. All right. Thank you for joining me for this week 11, you guys, and the YouTube live series that we're doing right now. We might not make it, but we try to make it every week. You know, this case we got there, we got here. Okay, so this message, if this message spoke to you, make sure you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who you think might need this. Okay, who is healing from survival mode, who is learning how to become whole again, so that they can be in a whole relationship. Okay. So see you guys next week. Okay. Take care of yourself, you guys. And gentle reminder, healing to remember, okay, you are becoming someone new. Okay. And you're not broken. So thank you guys. All right. Have a great rest of your week. Bye bye.